I'm Piero Bonamico, one of the creators of the Choral Excellence series. Our mission is to help the world of choral music through the creation of meaningful, high-quality instructional materials and exciting choral performance videos. It's in this effort that I'm pleased to present Donald Nguyen's Choral Techniques and Methods. This series is designed to help choral conductors improve the quality of their rehearsals and performances by addressing some of the key issues of this complex art form. I never fully realized how powerful Donald Nguyen's choral techniques were when I was studying with him at the Eastman School of Music. It was only after I entered the field of choral music professionally and began using these techniques that I understood how essential they were. I'm confident that they will become a regular component of your conducting arsenal. One of the most powerful concepts I remember from studying conducting with Don was that while both instrumentalists and singers must be solid technicians with an understanding of the methods required for their respective instruments, and both should have an understanding of theory, form, musicology, and so forth, it is the singer who needs to be a dramatic actor, and this is because of words. The Power of Words, Making an Impact with Diction and Meaningful Text, discusses this unique responsibility. Singers are 1/3 technician, 1/3 musician, and 1/3 dramatic actor. They have a unique ability to communicate directly with their audience. In this video, you will learn how to teach your choir to deliver text with understandability, meaning, and color. The Power of Words, Making an Impact with Diction and Meaningful Text. Section 1. Words. What separates the singer from other musicians? Section 2. Diction. Understandability, meaning, and color. Section 3. Inflection. Natural syllable and word inflection. Section 4. Consonants. Voiced and voiceless consonants. Percussive consonants. And dealing with M's and N's. Section 5. The 5 most important rules of English diction. Section 6. The Power of Words.
What is the one thing that sets us apart from all other arts? Words. Words. Diction is crucial. Diction is paramount. If they can't understand our words, they'd rather hear an organ or an orchestra or a band. And you just got to face that. If they can't get the words, we are useless. How many times have you stood up there conducting? Have we stood up there conducting and we were useless to the audience? They clap just because they're parents. Not because they were moved. Yeah. They've got to understand the words. Don't you think once in a while God looks down and says, geez, they're even doing that in my name. English diction is taken for granted by most American singers, voice teachers, choruses, and choral conductors. Yes, it is. You go to a recital of the doctoral students and the master's degree voice students at any university. It's great German, great French, great Italian, and you can't understand the English. Whether it's Copeland or whoever it is that they're singing, Ned Rorem, you can't understand the words. Sometimes you get 10, 20% of them. And you know why? It's because the voice teachers know the song. So the voice teachers know the words. So the voice teachers don't even know they're not understandable. See, diction was never important to Robert Shaw, except as it served rhythm. His words. He was concerned with sound and rhythm, sound and rhythm, sound and rhythm, phrasing, musicality, all those things, not diction. And so you listen to the Shaw recordings, and if you don't know the song, you don't get the words. I believe you can have it all. You can have it all. I don't think diction has to negate anything. It can enhance everything. Singing, more than any other of our musical arts, must, and this is the key, must make an impact on the listener. If there is no impact, we have failed. The impact can be joy, the sorrow of Maundy Thursday and the crucifixion. It can be the resurrection of Easter Sunday morning, the awe-inspiring Christmas Eve. It doesn't matter what it is. And in the secular world, it can be Orff's Carmina Burana in the diction of the old Latin, whatever it is, doesn't matter. But the diction is for two purposes: understandability and, again, enhancing sound, because diction, the consonants of diction are our percussion section. Without that, there is no percussion. So before we really got going on solid percussive diction, choirs almost sounded like humming choirs in America. Everything was smooth, but no none of that stuff. And that's a part of our language. CH and K and SH and all those good, wonderful sounds that I remember some of the Lutheran choirs in days of old would only let 6 people in the choir sing S's, and no one else was allowed to ever sing an S. Because they wanted the vowel sound was what was desired. S is great. S, that's a great sound. So is and R. Madeline Marshall's book on English diction says if R is followed by a consonant, like in the word charm, C-H-A-R-M, eliminate it, they'll know what the word is anyway, and you have a more beautiful sound, charm. What if you took the R out of P-A-R-T-Y? I don't think we should ever use crutches or gimmicks of any kind. Everything should be based on truth. The truth is, in the English alphabet there is an R, and it is not spelled A-H, as they would say it in Boston. So we would not copy the way Boston says it. Sing R, and sing it on and notice how your tongue goes right, pulled back into the back teeth. Do it. And the only way R is offensive is if we have too much of that. It's not offensive if we have little of that, because that's the sound of R. R. Now sing the same sound and have your tongue, as we said a minute ago, relaxing, touching your lower teeth and staying there. It's not going to go back between your teeth, staying flat. Sing the same You sing it. You sing it. You can't sing can you? You can't make an sound with your tongue that way. So if your tongue is in the formation of a vowel, you can't sing So now we're going to sing the word we're, W-E'-R-E, we're. And we're going to sing we, and keep the tongue on the E vowel, and don't let it start going we're like that. Just sing we, and as I cut it off, let the tongue go for we. Oh, sing the E I taught you. That was awful. Don't linger. A final sound should be no longer than a final T. Wheat. We're. Here we go. We're. That's fine. There's nothing offensive about that. There are places in the diction book that says the word we're should end with UH. We're, to avoid the . Now, Madeline Marshall was the English diction coach, the author of this book, at Juilliard for probably 30, 40 years, and was the English diction coach for Robert Shaw and the Robert Shaw Chorale in the early years. So, is just fine. Use it properly at the end of a word. That rule works for all R's, L's, S's, V's, like love. Just put it off to the end and then do it, and it's fine. There's no sound in the English language that needs to be omitted. Just all sounds have to be figured out. We have to figure out how to do each one properly and teach the people and accept nothing less. It is not just the understandability that I was talking about a minute ago that's important. It's also the depth of meaning of the word. Look up here. The word meaning means the word fire should not sound like peace. And Lord should not sound like the. I'm going to go down the first column, and I'm going to say each word as though you were a delegation from Russia and you didn't speak English, and I was going to try and say the word so you would know what the word was just by the way it sounded. I'll do the best I can. You look at the column, and I'll say them. Song, touch, move, happiness, fire, light, anger, peace. Now, there should have been a great difference in each one of those. Now I'm going to go across and say song and then sing. I'm going to say the one word and then a very closely related word to it, and it's still going to have to be similar but different. Song, sing, touch, caress, move, force, happiness, joy, fire, burn, light, shine, anger, fight, peace, love. Now, my choir should sing every word like that, just like that, in every song. And I'm the only one that can teach it, and then insist on it. Teach the concept, not just correct it every time in every word. Words are either connecting words, like the, or it is, or both of, or they're the main words. Main words are descriptive words. The words that lead in has to spin. A child is a connector, like it connects to born, and it has to spin, is born. A child is born. Sing it. A child is born. Can you sing? No, almost, I have goosebumps on my arms to do that. I like that so much. Just that. As though there's a crescendo with a whirlwind in it on that one note. Do it again. And say, a child. And a child, think of Jesus. Let's go. A child. Now the same is, and then born. A child is born. Now it can even be quickly. A child is born. A child is born. And so child has to have meaning for what is a little child. Born has to be the fact that it is born. Now, that's what depth of meaning means. Words have to sound like what they mean. So our diction has to have understandability, it has to have meaning, and it has to have color. But what about the color in the word fire? What are the vowels in fire? A, E. Fire. Fire. Sing it on that pitch. And sing a sound that is blazing orange and yellow and red. Fire. That's right. Sing the same sound on Lord and have it be the same volume, but simply majestic and stately. Lord. Now say, Lord of fire. Lord of fire. Now your of would just let of do that. Lord of fire. Now you will make an impact on somebody with those three words. They will listen. And they'll get sucked right into the moment. With the full color spectrum of an entire language performed effectively as a great actor would speak it, how would an actor say Lord of Fire? If I was on stage and we were talking about this Lord of Raging Fire, I would say, yes, but it is the Lord of Raging Fire. Would I not? Wouldn't it be fun to be an actor? Wouldn't it? 1/3. So model everything you do after Richard Burton or somebody. It ends by saying we simply have to incorporate enunciation and passion of these great actors, thereby succeeding in making a significant impact on the minds of the hearts of the audience. The most logical thing in speaking is syllable inflection and word inflection. Everybody uses it. Nobody speaks like this, emphasizing every word and every syllable equally. Nobody does that. But everybody sings that way. Every choir sings that way unless the director tells them, put that stuff in. If you have a choir and they're singing the word education, they would say, education. They would not go, education. They would never do that until you tell them to. And then they'd forget next week, unless they had them write it in, which we must do. Look at the... So I'm reminding us of this, and the reason I'm reminding you of this is because we don't do this enough. Not one person in this room does this enough. Because I've never heard a choir in my life who did it consistently, every word with more than one syllable, and they were inflected properly. I've never heard a concert where it happened all through the concert. Not by Fred Waring, Roger Wagner, Margaret Hillis, Robert Shaw, God, nobody. Nobody. So don't sit there and say, well, I do that, or we do that, because no, you don't. You work at it to varying degrees, like I do. The first column, emphasizing the first syllable. The second column, emphasizing the second syllable. And you don't just emphasize the second syllable. The first syllable has to crescendo into the second syllable. Otherwise, you get before, instead of before, this thing again. And then in the third column, that's the nicer one, you have a little crescendo on the first syllable, a stress on the second, and a diminuendo for the third. Looking up here, like divided. Divided. And that first note that has a little of this in it, how hard is that to teach? Darn hard. Nobody even knows what you're talking about when you start out. To emphasize the middle syllable, how hard is that? That's pretty easy. What about tapering the last syllable? People can do it. They don't. They'd say, and divided, they'd say, it is divided. 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 A little crescendo on it is. Then you start over again. Divided. That's a long way from it is divided. What about that last syllable that's soft? That should be like a gift you give somebody. Ted, Ted, Ted. I feel like a priest giving communion. But it isn't just Ted, Ted. It is divided. Everything beautiful, everything electricity, everything wonderful, everything impacting. And it's possible. Study more, do fewer anthems, whatever, shorter concerts. It's all possible. Word inflection means emphasize some words more and some words less, and not just lots and little. Within a given dynamic level, we find 5 intensities of emphasis. Look at that sentence. It's from a Bach chorale that says, from all falseness set me free. Asking God, from all falseness, I want to be an honest, true, righteous person. From all falseness, set me free. Now, the first thing I have to do as a conductor is go home and take that line as though I'm an actor and decide how it ought to be. It is not. The only thing I know for sure, it is not, from all falseness, set me free. It's not all a 3 or a 4 or a 2. Okay, I could say, from all falseness, set me free. That would have gone like this. From all falseness, set me free. Right? Or I could have said, from all falseness, set me free. From all falseness, set me free. Or from all falseness, set me free. Now I have to decide the way I'd like it to go while looking at the melody to maybe gain what the composer was thinking when he set it to music. All right, I've decided that this one, number 1 is the least important word, and 5 is the most important. So my most important words here are false and free. From all falseness, set me free, is what I finally decided on. Number 4 is all. For all falseness, from all falseness, set me free. The next most important is set. From all falseness, set me free. The next is me. From all falseness, set me free. The least is from and ness. From all falseness. So, you see, within one dynamic level, which might be mezzo forte, we have 5 levels of intensity. Just in one sentence. How about doing all of Handel's Messiah that way? There's no other way for us. Now, I think I have thoroughly analyzed that sentence. I could tell you the function of any syllable. It's either a part of this, or it's this, or it's a part of this. It's either a part of the main, the secondary, this and this, or where does it fall in the whole picture? Only then do I know how to stand up here and lead the choir and take them to glory on that sentence. So our music will always be filled with these. And on top of these, will be filled with longer ones. And there shall never in our music be 2 consecutive notes, syllables, or words with equal emphasis. A voiced consonant is one that has some pitch on it. The most obvious would be an M or an N. Pitch. But also consonants like B, 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 has a little bit of pitch on it. So that column down the left are voiced consonants, and we take advantage of that fact in the singing. Like the S in the middle of measure. Measure, and sing through that. The TH can be both voiced or voiceless in thy or think, where it's just air. Now each one of the, or most of the voiced consonants has a corresponding voiceless consonant. Corresponding means it's made in the same part of the mouth with the same stuff in the mouth, the tongue, teeth, and all that. Take the first one, B and P. Voiced is B, voiceless is P. Do it once. B.
Here's a chart that will help you identify the voiced and corresponding voiceless consonants. As said earlier, corresponding means that they are formed in the same part of the mouth. B, P, D, T, V, F, G, K, J, Sh, Z, S, W, W, The, Th. There are also voiced and voiceless consonants with no corresponding partner. H, L, M, N,
We just can't take for granted and say, I have so much to teach that I can't bother with this. Well, of course we have to bother with this. That's one of the electrifying parts of the language, is the percussiveness of the consonants. as well as the understandability. And so we say b, p, d, t, v, f, g, k, j, sh. All those things, and get them coming out of the choir. Good and loud. We have to realize that the significance of a consonant is usually almost devastated, in a way, by the how do you say enormosity? Enormosity, is that it? Enormity? Enormosity. Enormosity. The hugeness of the vowel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Of the vowel. If you're starting to sing a quarter note here, and the quarter note lasts this long, and you stop here, and the quarter note is this loud, so you have this block of sound, if it were in an animated picture of some kind, there's the quarter note on A, and you stop here. The consonant is only this loud, like if it's the word weed, weed, d, d, d. That's only, instead of being this loud, it's only this loud. And its echo is almost non-existent. So it's the size of a little postage stamp down here compared to the vowel. And here's where we stop. Now here's your little postage stamp of a consonant right here, and the echo of this thing lasts this long. What chance does the postage stamp have of being heard? None. That's a cappella. Now add the organ. Now add an orchestra. And nobody gets the consonants. That's just logic. Unless the consonants are so exaggerated that to the choir members themselves and the conductor, they seem way out of proportion. Lord, there's a good one. Think. That'll come through. So you're just going to have to think about all that. And say, not only how would a great actor enunciate the words and articulate the consonants, the beginning, the middle, and the final ones especially. The audience should never have to work at understanding it. And so the key, the choir must understand that they must do it in a manner that sounds ridiculous to them, to just sound normal in the front row of the audience. Now, another little thing about percussive consonants, that you really actually make them become percussive, like in the word B in the word battle, as opposed to the word better. If you're saying better, better, be, that's enough. In battle, you might want to say, pull the lips in between the teeth, blow air, and go, battle. The other thing is to substitute for it its voiceless partner and say, pattle. Or in Gloria, say Gloria with a K, which is its... Shaw did that all the time, put a K in instead of a G to begin Gloria in forte passages. But that really works. M's and N's are trouble because you can't hear them. Would you just do this, please? And intensify that. Teeth apart. Remember when you hum? That's right. Now there needs to be some of that on every M and every N because it's so soft, if you don't do it, it won't be heard. So if we sing Amen, Amen. Do it. Amen. Yes, what I don't like is Amen. I do that about every 3 or 4 or 5 years on something. But I have to admit, it's an attention-getting thing where the conductor looks great to the audience. I was doing the Bach St. John Passion in English a number of years ago, and I realized I had allotted enough rehearsals to learn the piece. And at the second rehearsal, I realized the diction, English diction, was so bad that we weren't going to make it and have it be understood. So I went home and figured if I could come up with minimal thinking here. 5 things that if we did 5 things well, 90% of our diction would be understood. What would they be, and what would the most important, second most important, third, fourth, and fifth most important thing be? And I came up with what I believed, and it has worked for the last 20 years almost, and it really works. Trust me, these 5 things will do 90% of your work for you. Number 1, the most important, is don't ever run words together. Don't ever take the end of one word and slop it over on the beginning of the other word. When a word begins with a vowel, give it its own clean, slight, underlined slight glottal attack. Like this. Look up here. I always am, not I always am. Do it wrong. I always am. That's the way we talk. I always am. That's okay. Now sing it right. I always am. Right. That will improve understandability 1,000%. It will also clean up pitch, because when you say, I always am, you slide the pitch. So pitch is now cleaned up. Rhythm will be speaking out more clearly with I always am, then I always am. So understandability of diction, pitch, and rhythm, all enhanced by one thing. Now, would you say a circle of vowels and go ah, a, e, o, u, ah, a, e, o, u, with very slight glottal attacks? Don't end the previous sound too soon in order to do it. We wouldn't want I always am. And don't overdo it. I always am. Just ah, a, e, o. A lot of little beginnings, no endings. Ah, a, e, o, ah, a, e, o, ah, a, feel it. E, o, ah, a, e, o. Yeah, put your hand up and feel it. That's why I did that. Ah, a, e, o. You feel that glottal attack happening? The vocal cords sort of going like that? Now, if you do glottal attacks any louder than that and go, ah, a, I always am, and they pop like that, that's hard on your voice. I asked an otolaryngologist who operates on vocal cords for a living, who is also a baritone aria singer, that if we do this for a lifetime, will it be hard on your voice? And he said, absolutely not, if you do it the way I'm suggesting. Slight glottal beginning at the beginning of a word that begins with a vowel. Now, does it interrupt line to do that? Do your ah, a, e, and see how good your line is. Ah, a, e, o, perfect line, right? Yeah. Who advocated the opposite? Who advocated running them all together? Anybody over 40 remember? Fred Waring. In the tone syllables, in italics, under the regular words would be I always am. God devour fathers. God devour fathers. Yeah. And that wasn't Fred Waring. That was Robert Shaw and Fred Waring in about 1939 when Shaw first went to him. They devised a way to make bad choirs sound mediocre and start getting some line. The second most important thing is that the D at the end of a word, and now, will always be sung like that, a dotted rhythm. And now, and now, now. Would you sing it? And now. And it is not DH. See, there's 3 ways to form it, to sound a D. You can either sing D, which is DH, or D, which is DIH, or DA, which is DUH. And I prefer the last. And now. Do it. And now. Now, if the tempo is slow, you'd have to double dot it. Or it would be and now, and that wouldn't be any good. It's actually like a grace note to the next word. Da-now, da-now. And it's the hardest thing to get people to do on a consistent basis of anything we teach. Harder than energy. harder than vowel formations, because nobody ever talks that way. That today in the live now. All that stuff. That's just the way we do it. Just said it again Monday night to the choir. Get your tongue out in front of your teeth and pull it back for thy, the, this. Do it. The, this. That's right. Otherwise, say, you sing the word, sing, praise thy name. Praise thy name. Yes, and what we hear is praise thy name, like praise thy. Now get your tongue way out for thy. Praise thy name. Yes, that's right, but nobody does that. The fourth is W versus WH. W begins with an oo. Sing this after I do, will you? We will win. We will win. So worthy is the Lamb from Handel's Messiah should start with a monumental oo. Hoo-wah! Worthy is the Lamb. That's right. WH, you blow air. What, why, where, when. Do it. What, why, where, when. That's right. We will win what? But there's that big a difference. Now, the singers will sing it all like it's W's. What, why, where, when, like that. Mm-hmm. If you do those four things, you're going to be a winner. I guarantee it. They'll understand everything you sing. The last of the 5 things that'll make your diction great, taking advantage of diphthongs, and this is a different category, which is why I said a minute ago, if you do the first 4, you're going to be home free. Taking advantage of a diphthong is get some money's worth out of the second sound of a diphthong, like they, thy, thou, that way. There's 2 concepts on diphthongs. Madeline Marshall in her book says put a neutral sound at the end. Instead of they, like thou, instead of thou. I don't like that because it isn't electrifying enough and it isn't understandable enough, and it's just too vanilla pudding for me. So, you have a list there. Passively neutral or my colorful and impacting method. With this half over here, would you please say they, and don't go to an A, go to T-H-E-H, the. And when I give you the release, put ye on it like they, like that. They. Don't too soon, don't hang too late. That was pretty good. Again. They. That's right. Now thou. Thou. That's what I think we should do. You show that. They. Thou. Thou. Joy with jaw, like the jaw. Joy. Okay? There I think you get your money's worth out of them. The choir starts getting the color of sounds that we need to have. Yes, Judy? Some years ago at Eastman, I discovered there was a new English edition of Brahms' German Requiem by Lara Hoggard, Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Great conductor, great musicologist. Spent 10 years on this edition. Went to Germany and found well over 200 changes, some minuscule, that Brahms had made in pencil that never got published by any publishing company. Like moving a crescendo or diminuendo back 1 beat, changing a bassoon note, putting a rest here, doing the little thing to major things. like where there's supposed to be some accelerandos, and nobody knew until this edition. And there's supposed to be some allargandos, and nobody knew till this edition. And so I thought it was pretty wonderful. And so I went to 3 musicologists at Eastman, one of whom was a Brahms scholar, his specialty. And I said, I want to do this Brahms Requiem, and I want to do it in English, and we're at Eastman, and I don't dare make a mistake. I don't want Eastman to be criticized because, well, Shaw and I, for one thing, had arguments about that. He really thought that had to be performed in German all the time. And so I said, I don't want to set ourselves up. And the 3 musicologists agreed, the 2 with the Brahms scholar, saying, of course it should be performed in English in America. Brahms knew more about the Bible, or every bit as much, than any of the clergy of his time. And he searched Martin Luther's Bible for he didn't want to write a requiem, a Latin Mass requiem about day of wrath and judgment day and fear of death and all that stuff. He wanted to write a requiem of peace and comfort at the time of death. And so he searched the whole Bible to find everything he could find that had anything to do with peace and comfort at time of death. And he wrote a whole requiem about that in the German language, not the Latin, so every German singer and every German audience person would understand every word he wrote. He approved it to be performed in other languages 2 times in his lifetime. So they all agreed. They said you would do a disservice to Brahms to do that in German in the United States, unless it was for an audience of aesthetic somebodies or Germans or something like that. So we did it in English. And Brahms succeeded like no one else has ever succeeded that I know of in bringing peace to people about death. At the first rehearsal that we had with orchestra and chorus, we were going through all the choruses. After it, the principal cellist, a young Eastman student, came up, young man, and said, after hearing what the chorus sang today, for the first time I am in peace with my father's death of cancer last summer. What? Had we sung that in German, that wouldn't have happened at all. When we performed it here at UCLA, and a very elderly man, white-haired, certainly in his 80s, came up afterwards and said, shook my hand and said, young man, young man, now I am ready to meet my Maker. Wouldn't have happened in German. Anything that is significant should be sung in the language of a people. The Bach St. Matthew Passion, the Bach St. John Passion. It's not important for a Mass to be sung. That's just liturgy. It's all what you believe in. But you can print that up and people can read it. But you're not searching their soul for it, you know, and telling them a story about something. And so Shaw and I would get in arguments about it. And the last argument we had was maybe about 4, 5, 6 years ago over lunch or dinner. And he said, Don, don't talk to me about that anymore. I said, okay. The last thing he did before he died was to make an English translation of Brahms' Requiem with a lot of help of German, English-speaking people. And I didn't know he was working on that. And when I saw it, I thought, my gosh. So that's how important the language is to make an impact. What if we had not only, what if we'd sung it in English but didn't do it very well? Would either of those people come to say anything? No. Because the words wouldn't have meant anything. It doesn't matter what the message is, even if it's understood, if people are flatting and sharping and singing with dull tone, it isn't going to make any impact. So the musicianship and the musicality and the understandability and the meaning and the color, all of it has to take place, not just some of the things. We have to have all of our knowledge shooting darts out all the time, not just some of the time. That's a big job. But what a fun job. Does anybody have more fun than we do? No. Some things ought to be done in the native language, like Ave Marias, Panis Angelicus, just because everybody's used to that. If you take something and change its original language, you're going to lose, if this was a graph of some kind, you're going to lose this much of the original marriage of sound of the language and the music. Whether it's changing Korean to English, or English Korean, or German, or French, whatever it is. Now, if you don't perform it in the language of the people, you're going to lose this much communication and impact. I'll go for the lesser of the two evils. Lose a little of the original sound, marriage, to gain the impact. I would rather not, as a purist, stand for this and lose all of this. Now, what's crucial is to do a translation that's really, really good. I've never, that I remember, come across an English translation of some significant piece that I didn't want to make some changes in a little bit, and go to a German and have him help me with it, or French, or whatever it is. But it isn't a win-win situation. It's a win-the-most situation. Looking through the eyes of my congregation or my audience, not through my own aesthetic eyes of that I want to do it in German. Which, see, Shaw did till just before he died. I bet God said, hey, you only have a little while. Get on that. Seth McCoy, the great tenor, used to give a lecture every summer to my summer workshop when I held it at Eastman. Where he was, as I said, he was on the faculty there with me. And I'd tell him, Seth, say the same thing. He'd say, what should I say? The same thing. He was to come in and say to the conductors what he believed, how he believed they should treat soloists when we hire soloists to come do Messiah or Elijah or something with us. What is he, as a great soloist, when I hire him? What does he expect of me when he shows up? And then just give us advice, Seth. Just plain old advice about anything. He said he was one of the wisest, loveliest human beings that ever walked this earth. And he said, when I was a young man, I would give a recital, and the reviews weren't so good. And I was trying to please the reviewer and any musicologists that were in the audience and any other singers that were in the audience. And he said, I finally decided I'm singing like Seth McCoy. If you like it, fine. If you don't like it, fine. And he said, from that day on, I'm just Seth McCoy. I will study with everybody I can study with, but when it gets up to their time to sing, I'm me. And I will perform with all the heart and the soul and the conviction that I can bring within me. He said, that's the way you should conduct. Study all you can study, with everybody you can study. But do what you do on purpose. Decide what you want. Decide how you want it to be, and then do it with conviction, right or wrong. Any wrong interpretation is better than no interpretation. But his main point, do it with conviction and make an impact. Do it with conviction and make an impact. Without that, singing is so blah. So is anything else. But let's remember that as our key phrase as you leave this workshop at the end of Friday. Go out and do what you do with conviction and make an impact. I would rather an occasional singer would oversing and sing a wrong note right through a rest, because they were so caught up with what we were doing, and they were doing it with conviction. As I said, I've got to be the source, the role model, the teacher, the insister, the demander, the everything. But we've got to make an impact. And that's largely with the singing sound and the language. The choir ought to sing like I'm speaking to you right now. And if it's a soft song, as I said earlier, like I'm speaking to you right now. That, hey, come here and sit down. Sing the hell out of the louds and hell out of the softs. All that stuff. every note, every phrase, every song, every week, every month, every year, every choir, because it's all possible.